Hello guys, today we are looking at an absolute brilliancy by Magnus Carlsen against the strong Chinese Grandmaster Wang. It's from the Tata Steel Master 2011, back when Magnus was still cooking up his final form but already showing that why he is a chess beast. I am your host Bison. Carlsen starts the game with e4, c6, Caro-Kann defense, d4, d5. Here Carlsen can takes on d5, but instead he simply pushed his pawn further, going for advanced variation in Caro-Kann's defense, restricting the activity of the knight on the f6 square. After this, black develops his bishop on f5, keeping an eye on the e4 diagonal, and in the future black can play e6, permanently activating the light square bishop. After this, Carlsen develops his dark square bishop on e3, supporting the d4 square, e6, opening the diagonal for the dark square bishop, and you can see that. Okay, so knight to d2, knight to d7. Here both sides develops their knight, and after this, knight at g goes to f3. Carlsen develops his another knight, and black simply moves back his bishop on g6. Maybe he wants to bring his knight on e7 and then f5. Okay, so bishop to e2. Here Carlsen is preparing for castle. Knight to e7 by black. Knight to h4 attacking the bishop, and black simply played c5, a good move attacking towards the white pawn chain. Carlsen defends it by playing c3. Now black decides to place his knight on c6, creating some pressure on the d4 pawn as well as creating an discover attack on the knight. But it's better for black to simply bring his knight to f5, attacking the dark square bishop, which is crucially guarding the d4 square. After this, Carlsen grabbed the bishop and he brings his knight on f3, eyeing on the d4 square, as well as white can further bring his queen on d2, which creates some counterplay for white. Okay, so after this, black brings his rook on c8, but a better move for black would be to bring the queen on b6, putting some pressure on the d4 square while also targeting the queen side. After this, Carlsen simply castled, and black decides to play a6, stopping any further pin like bishop to b5. Okay, g3 by Carlsen. He wants to bring his king on g2 and potentially place his rook on h1, building up pressure on the king side. After this, black develops his bishop on e7, and Carlsen just starts his pawn march by playing h4, launching an attack towards the king side. Black also tries to attack by pushing his pawn towards the queen side. But here, Carlsen decides to attack towards the pawn chain by playing a4. And obviously you can't capture on a4, otherwise white will capture on a6, which attacks the rook. Hence black defends it with queen to b6, but instead he must push his c pawn further, blocking the route of the light square bishop. And after this, Carlsen takes on b5, and after this you can clearly see that this exchange gives white an open a file for the rook. And finally Carlsen after this brings his king on g2, and clearly you can see the further planning of white. Now black pushed his c pawn further. Maybe he will push b4, creating some counterplay towards the queen side. After this, Carlsen brings his knight on g5, targeting the f7 square, as it also opens the path for this light square bishop. Hence, he brings back his queen on d8, creating some pressure towards this knight. And after this, Carlsen brings his bishop on g4, targeting the e6 square. And now it's very important for black to just capture this knight, or just simply place his knight on f8, defending this e6 square. Because suppose if black plays any another move like knight to b6, then now in this position white has two crazy options. Let's see it one by one. Okay, so here the first crazy move which Carlsen can play in this position is knight takes f7, sacrificing the knight, and after king takes the knight, you can see that now comes queen to f3 check, and after king to e8, bishop takes e6, creating checkmate threat on this square, and the only better move to defend is rook to f8, and after this, queen to g4, attacking the g6 pawn which cannot be defended, and if black tries to defend it by pushing it further, then this will also not work because now comes queen to h5 check. The only move is g6, queen takes g6 check, rook to f7, and queen takes f7 will be a checkmate. So you can see that this after this, but here after knight to b6 check, here white has also a second option, which is to sacrificing the knight on e6 square. Because after f takes e6, now comes bishop takes e6, and again white is creating the same threat of playing queen to f3, and suppose if black tries to stop the move queen to f3 by playing rook to f8, now comes queen to g4, targeting the g6 pawn and creating the same threat. So that's crazy, right? Okay, so in the actual game, after the move bishop to g4, black decides to capture the knight, and after this bishop takes g5. Now this queen is under attack, and you can see that Carlsen both sniper bishops are creating immense pressure towards the king. Here black defends his queen on c7, and after this Carlsen brings his rook towards the h file, preparing to push his h pawn further. Hence after seeing this, black brings his knight to b6, clearing the path for the queen so that it can defend this rank. Okay, h5, Carlsen pushed it further, and after g takes h5, bishop takes h5. Now you can see that white has a solid setup, perfectly positioned to launch a devastating attack on the black king. Okay, so knight to a4 by black, targeting the b2 pawn, and in this position Carlsen sacrificed his bishop to opens up the black king, and black captured it with the king because otherwise black has to lose his queen, has to lose his rook. Okay, so that's why king takes f7, and now Carlsen brings his queen on f3 with a check, and obviously you can't go on the e8 square, otherwise black will takes the rook. Hence the only square left for the king is g8, and after this Carlsen exchanges the rook, then he brings his another rook with a check, and after king to g8, queen to h5, and clearly you can see the threat. And after rook to f8, the final move by Carlsen is bishop to f6, and black resigned because if he captured with the pawn, then queen to h7 will be a checkmate. What an incredible game by Carlsen. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more, as it really motivates me to keep making these videos. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.